Hi everybody, this is Dr. Greg Rose from On Base University and TPI. And I'm here at TPI's 3D Diagnostic Bay, and we're going to talk today about Squish the Bug. Now it's actually a characteristic or a piece of advice that had been given to hitters for so many years. And we actually have a characteristic, or what we call our inhibitors at On Base, called hanging back. Hanging back and Squish the Bug are synonymous, and I want to first talk about what that is, and I want to talk about why you don't want to do it. So for a long time, a lot of coaches used to tell hitters that it's really important to stay back on your back leg. And they would tell you it's almost like you're squishing a bug right on the ground. Well, what we do is with our hitters is we get them set up in their stance, and then basically what we do is we take a line and we put a line outside the foot. So if I put a line outside the back foot, so imagine there was a line right here, and if that line was right here and I watched my hitter go through their entire hit, as they hit, you'll see that this foot always ends up in front of that line, right? So you'll always see the best hitters, they're going to weight shift, and their foot's going to end up in front of that. If their foot ends up going behind that line, let's say the line was here and their foot's back here, we would call that hanging back, or squish the bug. They're kind of synonymous. So the question is why would we want you to weight shift? So to me, it's literally comes down to biomechanics. It's kind of like, why do we want a pitcher to step off the mound and then throw? Literally, weight shift creates ground reaction force. In other words, when I land on the ground, when I hit the ground's going to hit back. When the ground hits back, it actually sends a force into my hip and it helps me rotate my pelvis. That actually helps increase my velocity, helps my body speeds increase, which I can hopefully transfer to the bat. So if I have a weight shift, if I move, I can actually create more rotary velocity. So, think of it like I said with a pitcher. Imagine if I'm on a mound, if I went up and I just turned and threw, versus if I step off the mound, the amount of force I can create exponentially increases with weight shift. Now I think here's where the confusion comes in. We have another characteristic called drifting. And I think this is where people who say you have to stay back or hang back, I think that's what they mean is to not drift. Let me explain drifting. Excuse me. So drifting talks more about the front side, right? So if I literally look at the front side of a hitter, when a hitter comes down, they land, they get to heel plant. As they start to move, their initiation or their first move, as soon as let's go back maybe 3 frames into their hit. So we call it the positive move or the first move. When they're done with the first move, when this arm starts to move, if I took a line and I put a line in front of their lead hip, now forget about the back leg, in front of the lead hip, you would see the best players in the world, they would actually stay behind that line all the way into contact. So they'd be out here into contact, but their front hip wouldn't go past that line. If you look at the back foot, like I said, is definitely moving forward. But the front hip is not drifting past that line. We call that drifting. So literally, if a player is landing on the ground and then the front side is collapsing or still moves forward, well then yes, they're not using the ground reaction force properly, and that energy is going down instead of up into the body. So the last thing in the world we want you to do is drift and keep moving forward, and therefore we'd want this to stay back. So we almost, instead of saying stay back, I'd say I want you to post and load properly in your front side. But to do that, I have to weight shift into that, get off of this back leg, make sure you're not hanging back, and then combine that with a good post in the front side. And if you don't see that drift, now we've got a great player. So I think there's a confusion. I think there's arguments of people saying hang back, stay on your back side, move forward. Let's make sure we're looking at the right thing. If we're talking about pelvic and where the pelvis moves, we definitely want a firm front side, hit into that to get that ground reaction force. But one thing you never want a hitter to do is stay on this back leg and just rotate. That's going to be very low velocity, very low bat speed, very low exit velocity. I hope that helps. This is Greg Rose with On Base University.